Hey there, David here, and welcome to My Extra Mile. The show this week is action-packed. You know, I always talk about the three elements of success: the right vehicle, right time, right you, right mind. And this lady's a seven-figure-a-year income earner who's going to share how she developed the right mindset, how she chose the right vehicle, and then what she did to be able to create over $1 million a year, especially starting with nothing. All right, so enjoy the show. Please subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a comment. This is all about the conversation. We want you in the conversation. So please enjoy the show with the incomparable Miss Lisa DeMayo. So Lisa, welcome back to part two.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you so much. And that was so generous. Huh?
How are you? How was your little break?
That was amazing. I heard Mom 3 times walking up the stairs.
Mom, is he done yet? Is he done yet?
Mom,
right.
Mom.
Yeah. So, you know, part one, again, great conversation. We really, and lots of things came up. Part two, I wanted to sort of focus a little bit more on network marketing because it came up in the first show where you talked about how you discovered network marketing, is that you would go to events and you would just simply go to these meetings and listen to the speaker and buy the cassettes and you were listening to the language, because there's a language and there's a core in network marketing in great companies anyway that really has this personal development thread in it. Take us back to what you were doing before you started in network marketing, and what made you, or what drew you to saying actually yes and on the path to becoming a professional network marketer?
So a lot of questions. When I was 18, we talked about this on the last show. My 18th birthday, I woke up to find my dad had just passed away. He had a long battle with cancer. And my mom, I was getting ready to go away to college. I had changed and decided that I was going to switch colleges so I can stay home with her. It was a lot of adjustments. And my mom said, we have a great possibility of losing our home. And a friend of ours had called and said, I'd like for you to come to this meeting and find out how you can sell products and whatever. So I went with her. And I don't really remember what they talked about as far as the business plan and all of that, but I was fascinated with the person in front of the room. And I remember at that age, David, saying there's something different about how some of the people walk and talk, even though they were all up there, successful. Some of the people had the it factor that other people didn't. And at that age, I became very curious as to what was it? I was too young to really put the language. Now I know it's ways of being, and I get that. I didn't then. I just knew there was something dynamic and charismatic about some of the people versus some of the other people. And I was curious. So I used to sign myself up for different network marketing companies. I think at one time there were over 14 companies, and I had gone to some of the large events by myself. I had gone to a lot of the trainings in New York City. We had a magazine, used to buy it on the street corner. You didn't even buy it. It was for free, called the Learning Annex. And they'd have all these different, remember the Learning Annex? It was so fun. And I used to go to all these different weird groups, in these church basements and
They advertised all these meetings, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, it was all personal development back then, back in the day. And that's how I didn't go on the internet and see, where's the local meetup for personal development. It was going to the Learning Annex. And I'd meet people, and I met a lot of network marketers, and still never signed up to sell a product, but used that. There was so much good stuff in the meetings, and they shared so much stuff about just life and expansion and growth, and going through the breakup of a family as I knew it, and mourning the loss of my dad and my uncle, my grandmother. It was a lot. I found a lot of comfort in a lot of the trainings. And then it was, I did what every good person, who is told by their parents: you go to college, you get good grades, you graduate, you get a good job. So I did all the stuff in the box, and I graduated, and I got a really yeah, I checked it all off. That was my whole life was a checklist. And I went to college and I got a really great job. I got a job as a pharmaceutical rep. And I was a killer pharmaceutical rep. We were top district. We won every single trip. I had the company car. It was a really nice life for someone like me. And it was a great salary. It was back in the 90s.
Back then, the being a pharmaceutical rep, I remember this, was up there like being a pilot or there was like, this was a prestige. Now, I don't feel it anymore. I don't feel it's the same. That I think it's become, because drugs are sold on the television and in these kind of weird commercials that tell you for 15 minutes what's going to happen if you use them. Your eyeballs are going to fall out and your toes will drop off and all that kind of stuff. But back then, I remember thinking that that's one of those pinnacle jobs. It wasn't just your average it wasn't a sales job. It was a whole other level. It was pharmaceutical sales, which was there was a mystique. Am I wrong? Or this is how I felt.
Oh, yes, and competitive, and the trainings were intense, and the homework, so I was very, very fortunate to be trained by two pharmaceutical giants back in the day and have all that incredible training. Back then, I was like, oh, another training, but it really exposed me to a lot, and I loved it, and I was great at it. I really, really loved it because can you imagine me sitting in a cubicle? I mean, that would last like 30 seconds. So I got to drive around, and I took doctors out every weekend, and I saw back in the day, you had an expense account, and I saw every Broadway show, and I won every trip, and it was fabulous. And then I got married.
Because you, back then as well, you had an expense account to take clients to do all these things, right? I mean, that was the other part of it. You did have this Hollywood lifestyle type of thing, right?
You did, and I didn't golf. So my partners all took the doctors golfing, and because I didn't golf, it was Broadway shows and fancy restaurants and theater. And I didn't grow up that way. So I was exposed to this world, and I had an expense account, and I had great relationships with a lot of the physicians I work with. And then I got married, and I had Gianna, and then I had Victoria, like back to back, 2 years. I had two babies. And I was getting up, leaving the kids in daycare. It was dark. And I'd pick them up after work, and it was dark. And I was coaching at night. I was starting a coaching practice. I was going into the city after working all day. I was coming back. I was doing a lot of personal development, and I was in this rat race. And I felt like I was living for Saturday and Sunday. I don't know why. I food shopped, cleaned my house, and had to get a stomach ache and do it all over again. And it became like this conversation of, this is so hard. I just want to do coaching, but you're not good enough to just do coaching. And this is a really good salary, and you have a company car, and you have an expense account. So I was in this battle in my mind for many years about leaving the pharmaceutical industry, and people saying to me, this is an awesome job, Lise. Like, you're crushing it. You're a top rep. You're not going to get anything better than this. And thinking, how can I ever really be a coach?
Back then, what were you making? Was it 150, 200 grand a year, something like that? Or do you remember?
Oh gosh, no. 90s, it was, if I hit 100,000, it was a lot.
So that's still pretty high.
It was high up. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, it's still till today. I mean, $100,000 a year. So $80,000 to $100,000 a year. I think it was 60-ish, and then it got, it grew as we grew, and a huge expense account and a free car.
Right.
So it was a lot of perks. I hardly paid for anything. And it wasn't until I had the kids, and then I just wanted to be home. And then I was home, and I actually got sick. I got very sick. And when my daughter was born, she was very sick. So I went through this period of time where I wasn't working, and I was home with my daughter. And then I felt this tremendous, tremendous guilt when I was home. This is what propelled me to go back to work after Victoria, because I did have a moment in time, other than I had a ton of bills too, where I was home. And I said, and this is really, I don't know if any moms ever felt like this, I couldn't stay home with a baby all day. It was not fulfilling for me. It was hard. I was bored out of my mind. I'm like, this is just this is not cool. I mean, I'm with a screaming baby all day long. I was really getting depressed. And I said to my then husband, I'm not meant for this. I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, there's something really wrong with me. I know that every woman's desire is to stay home and have babies. I can't do this.
Let me share something with you. I do a survey at one of the programs I do, and I've done it all over the world. And I ask about, different professions. What's the sort of the negatives associated with those professions? And I go through blue collar workers, white collar workers, sales, investors, military, teachers. But then I go through stay-home parents, and all these typically women, but and in some rooms now we're seeing more men will stand up, and people are always a little bit shocked, because across the room you hear, 24/7, no privacy, and this is the big one, a loss of identity, so there's women just like you who I've heard across the world now who are exactly like that. The idea of being a mom, they want to be there, but they want to have an identity and a life and be a mom, not synonymous to just being at home. I think for a lot of people it's revealing, right? Sorry, I interrupted you there, but.
Yeah, no, and it's really difficult. I mean, if you are that person, you want to be with your children, but you want to show up as the best version of yourself. And for me, the best version of myself, I get that from interaction with other people, by being mentally stimulated. I need a lot of stimulation going on in conversation to feel like something, and that was missing for me. There's only so much you can talk on the phone with a baby screaming, and she was sick and she was crying a lot. And I decided I had to go back to work for my own sanity. And I took a part-time pharmaceutical job. I did a job share. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this job share is half the money, but the same amount of work. Like, no, thank you. So I said to my ex-husband, I'm just going to do coaching. I'm going to start my own coaching business. I'm going to start my practice, and I'm going to be the female Tony Robbins. This is what I was born to do. I know that I want to do this. And I was playing the game. It was a Saturday night. I will never, ever forget it as long as I live, with another couple. They came over and we played cash flow. Robert Hughes.
Yes,
cash flow.
Yeah.
And I said, and here I was, and it's funny, I could buy whatever I want to buy. I'm not driven by material things. I'd much rather spend the entire day hiking or being outside than having stuff. So in the game, they're teaching you about stuff. And I said, it's not the stuff. I want the freedom that comes with money. And when people say money doesn't matter, it's one of two things. They either don't have it, or they're trust people and they never really worked for it, because it absolutely matters. Of course it matters. Like, we live in a society that's driven by money and abundance. And how do you give back and create anything in this world without having more than enough for you and your family? It's about giving and being in contribution. So we're playing this game, and I said to my ex-husband that night when we went to bed, I'm joining a network marketing company. I used to go to all those meetings and watch all those people train. I can do it. I am just as good as all of them. I'm going to do this. I'm going to join a network marketing company. A week later, you want to talk about the power of intention and setting it. And when I get fixated on something, I'm doing it. It's going to happen. So I said it, and I was like, it was in my mind. I'm joining a network marketing company. We take a ride to visit his friends. And on the way home, it was this crazy 6-hour drive. On the way home, he wanted to make one more stop. And I'm like, no, the kids are crying. It's past their bedtime. I'm hungry. I just want to get home. I have work tomorrow. We stop at his friend's house, and his friend's wife hands me a bag of used skincare. And I remember like the noise in the background, and it was like this cruddy bag. And I said, how much money does the top person make, and how fast do you get that company car? Because you see that Barney purple Impala, that's from my pharmaceutical company. And the only way he will let me quit that job is if I get the company car. And that that company, don't ever advise it. You got a car at a certain level. So it was, that's how it started.
But it's interesting.
I joined that night.
But interesting your mindset, because your mindset, you spent years. How old were you when you sort of saw the crappy bag of products?
That was, so I'm in this company now 10 years, and I was in that company for 6 years, so 16 years ago.
16 years ago. And so you're 51, 62.
Now everybody knows I'm 51. Thanks, David.
But you don't care.
Really don't.
I know. But anyway, but you've been sort of doing personal development for years, and the very nature of your job, which was in pharmaceuticals, was developing the connecting skills and the people skills. So, you were entering a profession with a lot of tools that some people who are listening right now don't have as well. So I want us to be...
Yes. And that's the key to this, because I was prepped for this, and I always say to the people all the time, because I did skyrocket overnight. It was like the fastest ever to do this, the fastest ever. In both companies, I broke a lot of records. And what is so key about what you said, it was not within 5 months I was at the top of that company. It was 15 years of personal development and cassette tapes and trainings like I have a lot of certifications in coaching, a lot, like 12 different modalities. I didn't do it on the internet. I physically went and trained for 2 years to become an ontological coach. I physically went somewhere to train to do neurolinguistic programming for weeks and months and went away. And I don't think people recognize that the amount of sacrifice that we have to do, it's letting go of a lot of limiting beliefs about ourselves and a lot of personal development work. And what I love about network marketing is we can earn as we learn about ourselves and as we do this discovery. And most companies today do offer a lot of personal development, and it's so easy now. I mean, now anybody can just go on the internet and or watch something. And
everyone's a personal development coach now. I mean, you and I earn our stripes, but it looks like everyone on social media.
Can I just go off on that for one little tiny second?
I just want to bark.
Oh my God, like I am worth $250,000 in training. It's how people just all of a sudden declare themselves as that because they went through something in their life is really jarring. And I would say this, I have been trained and I'm continued to be trained by experts in the field. And you should want people who have put their whole life have done this work. And how many certifications and coursework, David, have you done and written and trained on? And now everybody, I can't even be on LinkedIn. I look and I'm like, everybody is a personal development.
Telling people how, I like, even on my own social media, I find it absolutely abrasive to write something to tell other people how to live. I share stories about maybe things that have impacted me, but I just find it like, and I see people, and again, if this is you, don't take it wrong, but if you're someone who posts personal development quotes, what I would rather see personally, this is just me though, is that instead of writing the quote, look at the quote, go out and bring it to life. In other words, so do something with it. In other words, live it. And then come and tell me the story about how you lived that quote, rather than just post a quote up there. And, because the reason you're resonating with it is because it's something you want. There's something in that quote that sings to you, and it could often be something that you're aspiring for. So why not go out and follow the lines of that quote? For example, one of my favorite quotes is, "It's impossible to discover new oceans unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore." So, but for me, when I say that quote, I'm constantly in search of new horizons. I'm constantly putting myself way outside of my comfort. I'm constantly leaving, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, constantly, losing sight of the shore, in everything I do. So for me, that quote lives inside of my DNA. And so when I say it, people can get and pick up on that is something that, is in my DNA. And so I'd say the same for you. Don't just put a quote out there, bring it to life. Practice it. Find the pathway with that quote so that when you tell stories, people will feel that quote, even though you don't have to post it. I feel like do you and I have the same kind of like,
It's authenticity. It's just be authentic. Look, I'm just going to put it out there because this is just who we are, right? If you're super overweight and struggling and you haven't gotten a grip on that, I am not hiring you to be my personal trainer. I respect your journey. I appreciate where you are, but I really want somebody who's fine-tuned that area and can coach me to the best of my ability. If you are really struggling to figure out your finances and you can't figure out how to invest properly, or I don't want to hire you as a financial planner. We have all this stuff about who we're going to hire, right? I'm not hiring a dentist with bad teeth. I'm just not doing it. It's the same thing. Like, people, look. Would you?
It's like,
you just wouldn't. But then we hire these coaches and it's like, what have they really done as far as grit work and transformation and courage and transparency? And having a good Instagram and a great photographer isn't enough to really have somebody shift you. So for everybody out there listening, and David and I are joking about it because we can, you may not be where you need to be, even though you can rattle off, well, I've done this body of work and that body of work, because who's teaching you? Who's training you? So, there's different levels of this work, and you, like me, have been trained by some incredible people, a lot of life experience, a ridiculous amount of world travel, an opportunity to live the grit work and then apply it and blossom from it is a very different coaching perspective than somebody who sits and takes a course online and then knows how to perfectly regurgitate all that they heard. Yeah. And it's disheartening because I want the listeners to know it's not your fault if you're not where you ought to be, even if you hired coaches, because it may not be that those coaches were the people to effectively help you.
Yeah, it's so true. And if we go back into the sort of network marketing realm, so you enter after 15 odd years of getting ready, you come in and you do it. But how you do life. I mean, what I often see is someone who has that, you look at all aspects of their life and there's an element of that in just their approach to life. But if you look at how many years have we known each other? 10. Has it been 10 years since you've been with this company?
Yes.
Yeah. 10 years you've been in and you find your final home. But so now just talk why someone as successful as you are with as much qualifications as you have, you could be successful and can be successful in anything you desire, any profession. And you think about, you said Tony Robbins. You look at Tony Robbins charges $100,000 an hour, right, for his work, right? But you chose to be a professional network marketer, and obviously you're a coach, and you're an entrepreneur. You still have other businesses. But talk to me about professional network marketer. Why are you so proud when so many people, even people listening right now who are kind of on the fence, they're skeptical or they still get caught up in this, what they think it is? Why are you so proud to be a network marketer?
So many reasons. It's such a great question. As a coach, as a person who loves people, the hardest part for coaching was, and I was coaching course after course after course, a lot of people were searching for how they were going to make money or create a living or what they were going to do next. And what I saw when I first saw the opportunity in network marketing, it was, wow, I can really show up as my best self, believe in somebody else, guide them, coach them, train them, and then they're in a vehicle where their results is going to show up as income. So for me, it was an incredible opportunity to love on people and help people the way that I have that desire to be with people, and they could financially benefit from it. So I saw it as a win-win for moms who may have felt the way that I did when Gianna was a baby. And I love being a mom. It's my favorite role in my life is being a mom. Like, I love it. And I didn't love the mundane every day, day to day, changing diapers. I didn't love it. I didn't like cleaning my own house. I didn't love it. I wanted to have a career, and network marketing gave me the opportunity to help so many of these young moms have both. And I saw it constantly as I have both, not an either or an and but a win-win. And whether it was a mom choosing to stay home and have a career, where it was that extra $500 kept somebody's lights on, where it was somebody was a product of the product and had a complete and total transformation, which just made them shine in their other career. It was, when I looked at my checklist, it was satisfaction, satisfaction, satisfaction in all the different areas that this robust and plentiful industry affords us.
That's awesome. With when you look at the sort of the final home, talk to me a little bit about how you found a company, what you were looking for, what drew you to your company to say, look, this is, because I always say, I'm not in the convincing business. And when people come to my events, I will say, look, I'm not here to convince you to join or work in this particular company. It's something you have to decide to put your ladder against this wall, because network marketing is not get rich quick. It's not. There are some people who can make a lot of money quite quickly based on their history and based on their experience and based on their skills and their confidence. And their mindset. They can do that. But what was it that, if someone's listening again and they're trying to look for a final home or a home to build in, what are those qualities that you think are essential for someone to look for?
Oh, well, I will tell you, because I was, so I'm a top level network marketer, right? In my other company, built a team of over 100,000 people worldwide on the cover of magazines. They're flying me all over. I'm the top international speaker and I'm everywhere. And I decide this is not the right company for me. I mean, can you imagine, like, this is to talk about risk. I'm one of the top people.
You're at the pinnacle, all right? And you're like, no, it's that same feeling you said you had before, where you're like, hey, this isn't right. This doesn't feel right, right?
It didn't feel right. And it really didn't feel right. So I didn't leap, which that was my good news, because typically I'm just like, and people are like, what did she do now? I didn't leap. I took 2 years to know what I didn't know. I didn't know how to understand a compensation plan. I knew what I did want. I didn't know what I didn't want because there was no light to shine there. So I took 2 years, and this is what I was told to look for in those 2 years. And I hired some experts. They said, find a company that is more than 10 years old. You never want to be part of a startup network marketing company ever. The chance that they're going to make it is slim to none. And
statistically, statistics prove that statement to be so true, yet so often a young company will, because it's all what people read, they read on the internet, right? But it's so easy for them to seduce people into this false sense of security. But statistically, just the evidence is overwhelming that a young company probably is not going to make it, right?
And there's this, I don't know what the statistic is. We can find it and certainly let the listeners know. But it's, as soon as I hear people say, well, I'm going to get in on the ground floor, I'm like, there always is a ground floor in network marketing. When you start, that's your ground floor. So I already know that somebody doesn't know enough about the industry when they say that. I'm like, no, you're just building a house on quicksand. It's wait till the company is 10 years old, if they're still around, and see if you want to join that company. So that was number one. Number two was they had to be international. And I was in a company that was kind of international. I don't know. I mean, they would say Canada. I'm like, oh, it's just North America. So it was that in one other country. I really did want a company that had a strong presence internationally. I wanted non-gender specific products used on a daily basis for both men and women. And that was where I had shot myself in the foot in my previous company. It was more geared towards women, like 99% women. So I wanted non-gender specific, whether you're 6 months old or you're 100 plus, you can be a consumer, daily consumer of the product. And I always paint this picture, David. If I'm selling a product, who do I want my audience to be? Everybody and anybody with skin and a heartbeat in any one of these markets, 14 different countries. So there was a lot of that. And then it was the binary compensation plan where I got to see that there is no breakage. And one of the things that I really strongly dislike about network marketing is how some of these compensation plans have been written. And it is as a personal development coach, as a master coach, as a coach who trains trainers, to watch people want other people to fail so they could make more money in this industry was sickening to me. And in some of these compensation plans, if I sponsor you and you're just better than me, you're more well-rounded, you've done more work, and you grow this robust team, guess what happens? You go over me and push me down. So I was watching people here be so fearful of somebody coming underneath them and just blowing it out. And I'm like, okay, there's something, and I didn't understand about the binary back then. And I said, there's something wrong with this picture. I should never be, and it wasn't me personally, but my team should be fearful of somebody that they're bringing in being better than them. They should want to breathe as much life into that person and create so much abundance and be so excited about the opportunity that they get a piece of that. Not that they have fear that person.
And celebrate when if it happens that they out-earn them, because we see it all the time where, somebody has sponsored somebody who now earns a higher income. Now, typically because the person they sponsored is approaching it as a full-time profession versus a part-time profession, or having more conversations, or has the history that allows them to launch faster, right? I mean, but the celebration fact that, you've got someone in your team who may be out earning you is a great feeling versus what was happening before, is where you get sort of pushed down and you lose that, right?
Oh, and watching it happen and telling my team, like, you're amazing. Like, you're so good. That person just had a bigger network. They just had more credibility in their previous career. That constant conversation got old fast for me. And although I was very successful, my team wasn't. And it was a lot of people making up a lot of people doing a little bit, and I didn't want that. I'm incredible at leadership coaching. I wanted to develop leaders, and I was recognizing that sometimes the leaders weren't the front line, they were way down deep. And if I grew somebody way down deep, it popped the person who's been loyal and faithful right out. And it was really an internal struggle for me where to work. And that, I think, propelled the feeling to take the risk, and to take the risk, and people saying to me, you will never do this twice. You are not that good. It doesn't work. You will lose credibility. And I was like, whatever, I can't pay my bills with your opinion. And people think about divorce like that too. You stay married for the rest of your life, or what's going to happen to you. And I can't live my life like that. So it really didn't feel comfortable being there anymore. I took the biggest, you want to talk about crazy year. I left my company. I had no money, 3 kids, these 6 eyeballs staring at me, and I had to figure it out.
And 3 mouths. Hungry mouths.
And I'm going through a divorce, and my mentor and coach, who really was the person one of the strongest influences in my life. I worked with her the entire time I was in pharmaceuticals, was dying of pancreatic cancer. So my first year in my new company, my previous company is not happy with me at all, and there's all kinds of stuff going on around that. I'm going through this divorce, and my coach and mentor of 10 years passes away. And it was, that was my test. That really was my test of, am I really who I say I am to all these people? When you just don't feel like doing it, you have to do it anyway. And here I am.
Were you scared, because I know there's that feeling, even with all the work you've done, with all of the certainty that you live by. I mean, you've got these massive decisions and happenings all occurring at the same time, especially a divorce, because again, you're managing not just your emotions, but the emotions of your children, the husband, your friends, opinions. There's a lot of different energies going on. Was there a moment of, was it absolute certainty, or was it certainty and, oh crap? Was it certainty and, were there sleepless nights? What was it like? Or was you just buckled down and focused? How did you approach the change on the business? Because you had to go to work right away, because we're talking about a financial need to go to work right away, right?
Yeah, there was a lot. It was all of that. I don't think I could say it was any one thing. I was emotionally shattered. Physically, I was a train wreck. I had no choice but to work whether I wanted to or not. Blinders were on. My heart was shattered in a million pieces. You go through your family as you know it, the unit has completely shifted. Your social life as you know it. Can you imagine you've had this team for 6 years and this is your whole community is scattered to the wind because now people are unfriending you and they want nothing to do with you. They think it's like cancer or something, it's like, or some disease that, if they're around me, they're going to catch divorce or they're going to catch, losing a business. And it felt very sparse. And then with my coach dying, within that, that was like my go-to person, my vault, my person that I told all my secrets to, and she wasn't there. And it was deep physical pain in my chest and my heart, waking up in the middle of the night and feeling like I was literally inhaling black smoke and waking up and my mom was here. And she said, my mom and my brother came to support me. And it was challenging. And my mom's like old school, tough, lost her dad when she was 7. My grandmother, it was hard. My mom lost my father, as she was a young widow. And I came down, I was hysterical. And she said, I'm going to tell you something right now. Absolutely nothing that you're going through happened to you. It's all been as a result of your choices. Go wash your face. Go get dressed. We're all over this and you need to get to work. You have children to support. You made this decision. Figure it out. And I was like, but Robin died. And you're in the buts. And she was like, I'm not having any of it. No. And it was that, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget where she was standing in my kitchen. And I up the stairs and nobody understands how hard this is. And that was my wall kicking moment. And I worked like nobody on my team has yet to work. I put, I said to the owner of the company, I'm going to be decapitated because I get up all the time. Remember the big wire on the phone? And it's like stuck around my neck. And we had 2 major hurricanes. I sat in my car. There were trees falling. And I'm like, I am not hanging up until I get this order in. Like, we are going to do this. And it was this unbridled passion that I absolutely was going to do it because I had to, that people attach themselves like barnacles to me and they're like, all right, we know she's serious. And that's what propelled us so quickly. I mean, David, it was intense. It was like 17-hour days that I would be on, searching for someone in another country that was still up. And I remember when I finally lifted my head up, and was like, I was getting all these awards and recognition. I'm like, I have no time for this. I don't have time to go to these events. I have to work. That's all I thought. And it was, when I look back, it was the hardest, by far the hardest moment in time and the most rewarding moment in time, because I realize what human beings are really made of, and we are resilient, we are powerful. And
well, I want to ask you a question though, because again, from the observer, I remember this story. I watched you when you first came in. It's so easy for people to make up a story, hearing you now, and the challenge and the conversation with your mother and stomping up the stairs, right? And no one understands. I mean, all that stuff, that pulling the hair out and sitting there in the hurricane on the phone, and the endless, 17, 18-hour days. But a lot of people look, oh yeah, she's just brought a whole lot of people from another company. All of that, yeah, I know. But the stories, the reality are always so different. And, the fact that you worked your tail off and you've gone through the ebb and flow of any build where there's, build and life and build. But just talk a little bit about that, is how so often people will look and they kind of want to create a story that makes it sound easy, because that way they'll justify where they're at, because they're not picking up the phone. They're not having 18-hour days. They're not all in. They're still treating it like a hobby versus a business, where you're saying, hey, you burnt the ships. You burnt the ships, and you're standing in there and your heart's being wrenched out and you're scared and you know that you can't stop. You were relentless. But just talk a little bit about that, because that can be hard. The interpretation that other people give it. Not that you gave it much thought, but I'm sure you must have heard it as well, right?
oh, I used to hear it all the time. It's so easy for me. Judgment is judgment, and it interferes with a lot in our life. So the second I'm in a place of judgment about you and your success and how you arrived, I'm missing the opportunity to explore the conversations that can propel me forward. And when we stay in a place of judgment, when we stay in condemnation, we're missing out. So I've been fortunate enough to be trained in ontological coaching and to understand the power of language and paradigms, that when I look at my world and I hold somebody on a pedestal, I'm putting blocks in place for me to ever be able to achieve that. And my dad says this all the time. You said it all the time. You cut us open, we all bleed red. We have, as human beings, and he wasn't a jazz musician, but he loved playing the clarinet and he loved jazz music. And my brother's this incredible jazz musician, and my older brother. And I think being around so many different cultures, he really put in us, besides being a liberal in that people are people. When he talked about people are people, for me, it was more on an emotional level. I don't have prejudice that most people have about color, where my judgment is in people's vibes, and having to let go of the judgment that I was holding in how people were talking about me, and thinking about, if I don't want to be judged, I can't judge them back. And it was about, I always talk in vibration, low vibration, high vibration. And I had to release that there were people that I deemed as low vibe who wanted to pull me down or to judge. So my advice to anybody who's looking at other people and saying, I could never be like her, or he had it so easy, or why are you making up that story? How is that story about that other person serving you? It's not. It's your ego. It's your egoic mind gripping you and holding you back. And if you really come from this soul place, like a deep down place, and just look for the gratitude in the gifts that you have as a unique human being, whatever they are, you're trustworthy. You may not know the answers, but you will dig deep until you find them for somebody. Find the gifts, the innate gifts in your soul, and let the ego voice. You get really clear on the stories that it's telling you. You're never going to have that body. That person had an entire team that came over. Those stories that people are making up are the reason why they don't love their paycheck. It's the reason. So I'm fortunate enough where I I have enough stuff about my own stuff to worry about other people or to think I could never be that person. I don't have enough time to think about it. You know? And David, I really am like one of those people. I'm clueless about so much that goes on. And when people come to me, I'm like, how do you guys know all this stuff?
I know. I can't. Well, I don't even know where people are, but maybe that's why they're not as successful as they want to be, because they use their time in the pursuit of other things that aren't going to move them to where they want to be. Because we're coming close to the end of the show. I forgot to put the stopwatch on again, so I'm a little bit out probably. Talk to me, new person listening in, or somebody who's not new. Maybe they're in a company and they've said yes to network marketing, whether they're super part-time or, you know, they want to be full-time, or they really want to create choice. So they have a vision to maybe listen to your story. And I think, I mean, you're a multiple 6 or a 7-figure income earner now, I think. I'm not sure, multiple 6 though, right? 7, so over $1 million a year. So I mean, again, we're talking to, you know, one of the greats. I mean, that's but again, when you hear the amount of calls, what's the advice? Just sort of give us a sort of the elevator version, and because I know we're gonna do lots of calls, and I want to dig into some of your skill sets, and programs. But give us a sort of, where's the starting point for somebody who says, I'd really love to have choice. Give us, you know, 2 or 3 of the things that they can focus on right now that's going to allow them to move toward that with consistency and time. Right? Can you just give us sort of those steps? What's the early step?
Number 1, find different mentors that relate to you and who you want to be like. So who talks in a way in which you want to hear yourself speak, who looks a certain way. Find a couple of different mentors and really model and understand when to let them go and replace them, because our role models should always be shifting as our goals shift. So I would find a couple.
When they replace, you're not talking about get rid of, you're talking about just, you know, you're still going to be in relationship, but you're now, you know, you move your mentorship and where your focus is, but the friendship of this person stays. It's not like get rid of, right?
Oh, correct. Or it could be somebody you don't know. You know, it could be like, for example, let's say that I am really observing and watching Oprah and how she does it. And now I'm saying, okay, well, I want to now watch, I don't even know who another talk show.
Brene Brown or
Brene Brown is, because of where I am now, and Catherine Woodward Smith is dealing with divorce. I'm here now. So we have to remember that we evolve, so should our mentors. So in network marketing, as we evolve, so should the people we really are.
I love what you just said there, because if someone's sitting at home and they got no money and they're thinking about mentorship, what you've just given them permission to do is to have free mentorship. You're saying, look, find somebody whose body of work, whose conversation, whose language, whose look is something that resonates with you, and follow them. And now, you know, yes, you can pay for that, but you used Oprah, which is, you don't have to pay for that. You just have to listen and observe and start to implement. Sorry, interrupting, carry on.
It could be training all day on YouTube for free. I mean, this doesn't have to cost anybody money. Just find the people who you want to walk like, talk like. I think it's really important to find some mentors. Number 2 would be write down your limiting beliefs. Really get to know them. I remember I did a course and the teacher said, talk to them. Like, oh, insecurity, I know you're here. Why are you here? Why do you need to show up right now? And really get to know what your limiting beliefs are. So many people are so aware of the inner voice that runs them on a daily basis. You're so fat, you're so stupid. I can't believe you said that. Notice that ego mind, that monkey brain, how much it talks to you. That would be number 2. And number 3, really.
So when you write it down, though, you're just becoming aware of the limiting beliefs you have. And just so I don't want to leave them there, so they got awareness around it. What is that? I know we could do a whole show just on limiting beliefs, but what do we do once they're aware of it? What do you want them to do with that? Just so that they know, yeah, now I'm fat, but I can't, or I'm too fat, or I'm too slow, or I'm too this, or I'm too that, right?
Thank you. Yes, they should. Okay, so if your best friend or somebody that you just love so much, your child, comes to you and says, I'm so stupid, I'm so fat. So read them as if somebody you absolutely love is saying that. What advice would you give them? What kind of coaching would you give them? And we need to really be gentle with ourselves, because I believe in the soul body versus the egoic body. I've done a lot of Eckhart Tolle work. And I believe that as the more we come from our soul, we can start to squash that egoic part of ourselves. And most people aren't even aware that there's almost like two people existing in one. There's this person that wants to come out, and then there's all the masks and all the armor that we've learned to put on over the years as we've gone through our own personal battles. And we don't realize like that mask and that armor is still what's in between us and success. So there is this place from our soul where it actually has to break through that ego, where that you can't care. You can't worry about what other people think. You cannot pay your bills with somebody's opinion. When I got divorced and people were like, oh, stop hanging out with her because we might get divorced if we're with her. Nobody came and said, do you want me to watch your kids for a couple of hours? Do you need a break? Do you need us to, it wasn't like that. So I really learned really not to put weight on other people's opinions. And I looked at it as very freeing, that I interpreted it. I had to put it in my mind. I play everything in my mind the way I want it to be. So my day is already.
And by the way, it shows. It shows. Results never lie. It shows that you do that, and you do it beautifully and elegantly, right? So, okay, so number 2 then is write down limiting beliefs and then do that self-coaching. How would you coach if someone you love was speaking that way, and how do you redesign that language? How do you reinstill and practice a new language that's going to allow you to sort of dissolve? And that's a lot of practice, by the way, to dissolve limiting beliefs. And they'll keep there, but they'll get quieter and quieter as you start practicing a better language. What's number 3?
Number 3. And you know that I'm doing this as we go, because David doesn't tell me ahead of time. Number 3, what I think is critical, reevaluate the 5 people you spend the most time with. Just reevaluate. You're not breaking up. You're not, divorcing your husband or wife, or you're moving out. Just observe who they are and bring in energies that will support what it is you now desire. So you may have your best friend from childhood who just has a different belief system. Maybe instead of spending all your time in communication with that person, you now want to start having conversations with different people who have an elevated view. So I would search for a few, if 5 feels too much, a few new people who really could be a source of enlightenment for you, an opportunity for you to feel lifted. And we don't realize that's a real blind spot for people. Is they don't realize.
I have interviewed so many people who are successful. I mean, I did a podcast for 4.5 years, and I've interviewed everyone from Tim Ferriss to, people who are very, very well known. And, and myself included, this was one of those key things, whereas I was fortunate that I left England and left all of the people that were influential in my life at that time. And I didn't realize that was going to be, as I look back, become one of the key determining factors in my success, was that I started to hang around with and be more conscious of the people I hang around with. And it's not like I can't hang around with people who are not successful or who have some negative thinking or low self-belief. I have loads of friends like that, but they're just not people I spend or focus my energy on, that I can just hang out with them and I can have a beer with them and boom. But I choose to be around people that when I walk away, I feel full, and so do they. I feel that, that's a really important thing. How do I feel when I leave a conversation? Do I feel restricted, or do I feel limited, or how do I feel? Or do I feel, wow, do I feel excited, or do I feel, more positive? All these kind of things, and especially early on. Now, I feel like I bring that. But anyway, carry on.
And David, what I love, I don't know if you are aware of how much coaching you just gave with number 3 about how do I know if this person is a limiting source of conversation or vibe in my life, you feel it in your body. So this is all tied to ontological and somatic coaching. Somatic coaching is all where we feel in our body. If you just rewind this part and watch what David did, he just did it for you. He said, I'm around those people and I feel like this. And then I'm around other people, I'm like, oh, some people aren't even aware that they live in this state because they're so comfortable in being restricted and constricted that we really, I would hope in these series, really have people understand their own body and where we carry the weight of conversations in our body. Is it, we have all these phrases and cliches, the weight of the world on my shoulder, or, she's a pain in the neck, or he's a pain in the ass, or we actually embody that energy. So you're just so aware of it, but I hope people now hearing you and watching that piece become aware of it.
Well, you gave me another thought as you were sharing that piece. I was thinking, well, and the other part is, how are you making people feel? So the way your energy is showing up right now, when you're in front of someone, how do you think they feel when you leave? Do they feel lighter? Do they feel more positive? Or do they feel more constricted? Are you bringing a message of doom and gloom, right? So I think that there's a two-way street, is notice what people do for you, but be aware. What do you think you're doing for people? And be the kind of person that when you leave, people say, wow, I just love hanging around that person. I always feel great when they're around. They always seem to have this view or this perspective. And that's just a practice. Notice, again, it all comes down to language, internal language first, but every word that comes out of your mouth, every word is important. And with practice, every word that comes out is light and it is power. I'm not saying if you're grieving, but you grieve with elegance. You can handle loss with elegance. I mean, yeah, there's times where you're feeling less yourself. But again, anyway, we're going off. Back to you. Any, or do you want to stay on this one?
I love this one.
I
could do any one of these. This is such
we could do a whole show. We could do a whole show just on this.
This is so good. This is just such a good one because people aren't aware how other people affect them. Also, I just want to add to that. Not only do you feel like that when you're around them, but we're constantly having these subliminal messages from social media or direct messages from social media. Unfollow people who are not vibing where you want to be. Not where you are now, but where you want to be. I spent a good part of last week, unfollow. I didn't unfriend them. I just don't want to see it anymore. There is always an opportunity. So it's not even in our languaging or linguistic language, but in what we're writing and what we're putting out there, or just because in this moment in time we happen to be quarantined, you and I look pretty good. We showered today. I did makeup for you guys.
I didn't. I just shaved.
And we still get to be expansive, even though things around us may not feel like that. There is, what does it come back to? Gratitude.
I knew that we'd end up with gratitude. I want to say something. Like the last week, I went through every single closet in my house. And so I have quite a lot. It sounds weird. I live in this great big house, right? But I have a walk-in closet, and clothes is my profession because I work in front of people, right? And I went through and I tried on every single item of clothing. If it was too small, too big, or something I haven't worn, I donated it. And I went through the same in my garage. I went through every single cupboard. And what you just said, and I know that feeling of cleansing, that feeling of purging, and how beautiful it feels when I walk in that closet now. I know there's nothing in there. There's no noise in there. There's no clutter in there. I don't like clutter anyway. But unfriending, my point was, what you just said I haven't done. And because I don't really read a lot of posts, but the idea that having the power and the fortitude and the understanding to say unfollow, that does not resonate with me. That conversation is not one I want to be a part of. Unfollow. It's not going to show up anymore. And I think that's brilliant. And I think it's a really beautiful and a very easy starting point just to notice, because social media is playing such a massive role in people's lives, is just notice when you read something, how does your body feel again? And little button. I love it. Lisa, I know that we're probably at 45 minutes. I lose track of time. I could talk to you for hours, but I'm sure it must be around then. We went to 1, 2, 3. I think that obviously we're going to be having, hopefully you enjoyed this as much as I did. I know that we're planning to do some more stuff together, but I love this platform. I think it's great. I think short 45-minute conversations that aren't, they're not overworked. It's conversations. It's real conversations about people who are interested. But I want to sort of hand back to you again, especially that new mind. We talked about network marketing a lot through this one. What final message? And again, in future shows, we'll go into, some of the how-tos, but what's a final message of someone who's sitting on that knife edge right now and they want greater choice and they're kind of stuck maybe, or they're immobilized right now, especially with what's going on with the virus, or fearful, or they're scared about money, they're focused. What's the final thought you'd like to leave them with?
I would say start journaling. I love journaling. It's so cathartic. It puts things in perspective. And I would do 3 letters to myself. One where you're just really in your stuff. Like, it's so bad. Like, this is just poison coming out of me of like how bad I am at this. And then one in the middle is truthful. It's without a lot of interpretation. It's just your truth about where you are, how much money you're making. Can't really dispute this. And then the other one would be you're living the life abundantly. What does abundantly feel like? What does it smell like? How would you walk? How do you wear your hair? What are you buying? What kind of conversations are you having? And then from those 3, really find what's real right now, because it's a combination of all 3 of those. So I think where people think they are really is never truthful. It's their interpretation, and they bought their own story because they told it so many times that they're stuck. I think if everybody just looks for gratitude in, wow, I made 5 phone calls this week. That's more than I did last week. I'm so grateful for that one extra one. If we continue to really be grateful for what we are doing, things start to shift forward. I think when we go into that place of scarcity and it's, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm stuck, and we keep repeating, I'm stuck. Of course you are. You're going to stay there. So it's the awareness around what abundance looks like and feels like. And David, I think this is key. It's just the next step. It's, don't look at your compensation plan and you want to be where Lisa is. Just the next level. It's just one more person. It's baby steps. It's that one more something that creates a drop more abundance in your conversation. Yeah. So my daughter's 18, just signed on to be with me in the company. And that's what we celebrate. It's one order, and it's never a pack, and it's never, it's one thing, and we celebrate every one little thing. So she is not creating, and I'm very aware to listen, she's not creating a conversation of, but they didn't do this, or I thought I was going to hit this goal and I didn't. She's celebrating the success, and they're like little teeny steps.
That's why, and again, that's what the show's about. My extra mile is really celebrating those little tiny incremental things that move us forward. I just want to go back to those 3 letters just to be clear for everyone. So, the one letter when you're in your stuff, and all that sort of negative noise and all the story that's coming out, the maybe, and some of it could be victim, again, correct me if I'm wrong here. So that victim kind of talk, whatever. Second letter is all about the truth. What's the real truth? Well, and really, I love truth, because truth is about responsibility. And I would say that, when I take 100% responsibility for everything in my life and everything not in my life, there's no one left to blame, right? And so, but in that truthful conversation, just tell the truth and then the vision. But I always like to write that vision letter as I am, as if it's already happening. I don't know if that's the same for you, Lisa, that just write it in the present tense. So those 3 letters are your homework. Lisa, this has been, again, extraordinary. You are such a gift to the planet. I just find that I could talk to you for hours or days. It's just so easy to always converse. There's so many, I can think of 1,000 different directions that we could go with our conversations. And again, that comes from your vast experience. So thank you, thank you, thank you. For those of you out there, I urge you, if you've enjoyed this, share. Lisa, just share your, if they want to come and contact you through Facebook or Instagram, do you want to share your information?
Sure. It's Lisa Livoti. It's Livoti, Lisa Livoti DeMayo. And you could always follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And I want to say, David, thank you. Thank you for never getting tired of doing this work. Thank you for embracing the unknown constantly so that we're able to really borrow a little bit of your belief when we're not feeling great. And I will tell you that one of the most important people in my life, and there were many, is my brother, Stephen. And my brother has this incredible life right now. It's beautiful, it's abundant, it's rich, it's successful, it's loving, it's all of it. A new baby daughter, a beautiful wife, a big, beautiful home. And he always, always, always credits you, always, and says it was you from the beginning that really had one of the greatest impacts on his life. So the fact that he is alive and thriving, and to you, my dear friend, I am just so very thankful.
Tears in my ears there. Steve, we love you. And it's a great story. Next time we do a show, ask me the story about Steve and my son, Ben. My son, Ben, stayed with Steve in New York. And so it's a great, great story, but I want to honor people's times. Steve, we love you, and congratulations on the baby. I'm going to have you on the show soon. Would you like to be on the show together? It would be so fun to have you two on the show together. I'd love to do that. We should do that, right?
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I know.
It's hilarious because we're best friends. We go at it.
I love it. I'm going to make sure that happens. So you got to get an invite for that. Again, you listening, just again, remember my extra mile. Take those little tiny incremental steps. Even if you think about improving just a little bit, 1%, just 1% improvement on a daily basis, you'll get to exactly where you want to go. So thank you. We love you. And yeah, we'll speak again very soon.